Starting recording now. You're live.
Wow. Here we go live.
Intro song, Bjorn, on 3, 2.
Welcome to the Flawedcast. It's gonna be a mighty fine time. Welcome to the Flawedcast. Gonna see some sunshine, talking words and ideas for your brain and your feelings. Talking things you gotta think about tomorrow, appealing to your friends and stuff when you're talking about junk standing by the water fountain round lunch. Everybody knowing what they know and they ain't talking shit about the stuff you learn about right now. Hey.
Wow, that is a great new song.
Shit.
Like a new anthem for the nation.
Months in the making.
Yeah, I really worked on that one. That one totally spent hella time in the like reconsideration booth.
I like the part. Wasn't there a part about birds and ideas?
You know,
I think that's how it started. Yeah, birds and ideas.
I like that a lot.
I couldn't tell you because literally that was written down so many times it was never written down at all.
Right. Okay. Well.
Yes.
That's fascinating stuff.
I'm glad we're on page 1 for this journey.
Yeah, we got to start somewhere. I mean, we could start in the middle. Maybe we are doing that, as a matter of fact.
I don't know if this is the 94th episode or the 97th and a half episode or the 101st
when you started
episode.
Counting.
But it should be either
but
the 99th, the 100th, or the 101st. Just because...
Does that include the original Lost 26?
Yes, I'm counting them all. Because I got a bunch of them on my computer still.
Okay. Well, the Lost files are going to be fucking solid gold starting today.
Oh, yeah. Now that we're super famous.
They were mostly just hiccups in editing. Like, they would have been continuous. There were just, like, little bumps and bruises along the way.
Yeah, well, that's the story of the hero, man.
Certain files are just too big.
Just keep starting over.
Well, it's the hero's journey, man. We're here. We made it.
Which hero would you say we are?
Like Stranger Things, kind of.
Like, what does that mean, even?
The hero of Stranger Things is.
Well, there's many. It's like the group of kids. They're all great. They're all doing great.
I kind of feel like the Portal is the hero.
Well, have you watched all 3 seasons?
No, of course not. I'm forming these opinions on very, very little information.
I'm going to claim authority to suggest that all the kids are heroes, having watched all 3 seasons. And therefore, it's like us. And that is kind of the point.
We're all the children.
We are like us.
We are the world. We are the children. Indeed.
Right.
Wu-Tang is for us.
Okay, check it out. I wrote a song as a songwriting exercise, kind of loosely based on this idea of like a kumbaya, we are the world, hallelujah kind of metaphor. And it was the title. And I wrote it from the title backwards. We wrote the title first, and then we wrote the song.
World Are We?
Nope. We wrote Stars Like Us. And then I wrote this song that was kind of framing that idea. The whole concept is you look up at the sky and you see that they're just stars like us.
Ah, nice. Bjorn is doing some stretching.
Are we doing yo-yo now?
No,
we're introducing the visual.
I know. I was going to say, way to inaugurate the video part of this all.
This would be the worst part of the audio
sensors.
Yeah.
For the garage light. So I got to jump up every once in a while. If I'm not moving around like naturally, it's because I need to jump.
You got to gesticulate.
Turn on the lights.
Gesticulate.
This cat is particularly inactive.
Right. Hey, and also off screen at the moment.
Also off screen. And so it just seems like you were.
All right. I know. He didn't make the cat up. He's one of those people that pretends like he's got a cat at home.
Oh, God.
He's like, dude, I'm sorry. I got to go feed my cat. but
Look,
there's no
this
cat.
cat is live now, and so can we do the moment of its story just briefly?
Yeah, let's hear it, man.
I have a property.
Yeah. Okay.
I have a piece of property I bought 5 years ago, 5.5 years ago, for super cheap up in Washington, Camano Island. And the October after I bought this property in February, 5 years ago now, I was cooking fish one night, and I heard a meow and saw some little eyes coming out of the woods, and I saw a little black kitty and gave her a little fish. And she's been sticking around since then.
Wow.
As the homie. And she got, there have been other cats even that have come and gone since she's been around.
Right.
And she's persisted. I built her a little...
She looks mighty happy right now.
She's got a cat door to come into the cabin. She sleeps on the bed every night.
Even when you're not there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's her spot now.
That's crazy.
And the neighbor feeds her every once in a while. She hunts everything from weasels to bats, bunnies, birds, and mice.
I was waiting for the point of the story where the threshold would cross, where it would no longer be applicable. That if you told any of that story until that sentence in just a sexy voice, it could all be a metaphor. It could all be like
that was it.
Wow. Until you said she hunts weasels. Until you said.
Hey man, that's innuendo.
Which
that's
that could have
slang.
still worked.
She hunts weasels is the best line of the whole.
That's
story.
actually slang, dog. That's the real thing.
Literally, there was a dead weasel, broken necked, and bit on the back of the neck at my fire pit. She left it there, so I know she's out here killing weasels.
Right, and weasels
ain't no punks neither.
Right. Well, that
weasels are savages.
Are they kind of like honey badgers?
You got to mark this part of the call because I want that whole last sentence. I'm going to write a whole.
Weasels aren't punks. That part.
Yeah. Okay. Weasels aren't punks.
No, the one before that. She found the carcass of a weasel and that whole thing, just so I would know and all that. I want all of that. That's
just like the rest of the Flawedcast Nation, you can have it.
It exists,
but
now.
There's a race. There's a race to the top because the rest.
Now it's out there.
The other songwriters in the Flawedcast Nation are going to want to.
So this one's out here, petite little thing, 7 pounds 7 ounces.
Wow.
Dodge
7.
eagles, coyotes, raccoons, all sorts of things, surviving. She's got these crazy eyes. I don't know if you can see them. One's like dark. Light green and one's marbled.
Oh, okay.
Just crazy looking eyes.
Yeah, they're dark, like the heart of Satan.
And then
so it's hard to see on Skype.
She's got this ear infection, and it hit her hard to where this last Saturday, she started having ataxia. I don't know how you say it.
I don't know.
Loss of balance, wobbliness. Her equilibrium was fucked up. And apparently this infection had really affected her inner eardrum. And her whole balance had been sent off to where...
Vertigo.
Not quite. It's a slightly different element. To where she just would take a few steps and fall over. Or look up if you were passing her, and looking up would make her just fall. She had no sense of ups and downs.
She's on that drug. She's on that heroin.
No, she's not. But it was, anyways, it's frightening to see an animal.
How do you know for sure?
Of her level of capacity. I don't know for sure. She might be on the needle. It's true. This is the Pacific Northwest, dude. I know. I was gonna say. I know every other thing. I'm down for that shit, but I just
have you ever seen her? Have you ever seen her frozen mid-step on an escalator?
She's a telltale sign. Because she rides escalators all the time.
Oh, that's how she announced her candidacy for cat president. Escalator? Yeah,
riding up or down?
Up, as a statement.
Oh yeah.
But she was frozen on that heroin.
Just like she was going to take the country. It's funny. What a metaphor for Trump. He introduced himself by coming down an escalator, basically like, hey, let's all go further downhill.
Well, yeah, and he's descending from on high in his billionaire status just to like participate with us lowly folks who run this country.
Well, that was the impression he was
folks.
trying to leave. Yeah, that was the gimmick.
While we're talking about it, I'm curious, before I pull it up, what you guys think. I think, what was the last price of shares on Predicted that I showed you?
Thank you for
will
bringing
Donald
that up.
Trump be president?
Start over. 2020. Let's just now that the Flawedcast is here live for the people, I want to know what is this thing, and can I get involved? Because can I put pennies?
I'm ready to bet. Bro.
If I had put $20 on Nikki Haley when I was saying that shit, I would have made.
You guys didn't download it?
No.
Go and download on your phone, Apple or Android, on your phone. Go and download Predict It. There's no funny spelling. Predict It. That's the name of the app.
Is this legal?
You log in. Yes, you log in. You sign up. You connect a PayPal account or a card or something, and these are penny stock that are predictions on political outcomes. So
love it.
An example is, will Trump be impeached in his first term? The rules. Donald Trump, during Donald Trump's first term as president of the United States, the full U.S. House of Representatives shall, by simple majority vote, approve or pass one or more articles of impeachment of President Trump. It goes on for like 2 more paragraphs, right? Those rules, yes or no, you have 72 cents right now to buy the yes, or 29 cents to buy the no. And then you can read the charts of how people have bought it and the volume and the price, etc., over time, and buy and sell. So will Trump be impeached by the end of 2019? By January 1st, 2020, will Donald Trump still be in office?
70.
You can buy
822 odds is what you said.
Well, no, that was the last one. What do you think the odds are for this one?
Oh, this one? It's 20 by the end of 2019, 68.
They don't all
32.
equal 100. 68, okay. 32. It's not exactly every time, but yeah. Okay, what do you think, Bob?
Wait, say that one more time. What are the odds of him leaving by January 1st, 2020?
Right. Yeah,
but it doesn't have to equal 100. It does.
No, it
could be like 19 and 37.
There's a little window.
That's odd.
Exactly right.
Literally odd, as in not even. I would say it's probably really in favor of him still being in office in January. So I would think it's almost like 85 to whatever they allow to be the remainder.
Yeah. It's actually.
We've lost you there.
Of course, we lose. You gotta do it again because we lost.
Are you guys hearing me now?
Yeah, now we are.
Yes. Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes.
So it's actually pretty close to even. It's actually 46 cents to buy that he will be impeached by January 1st.
Impeached and removed?
55 cents, yes. And it's 55 cents to buy that he won't. That he'll still be in office and will not have been impeached.
Interesting. Wow.
I don't think they have a
app
for iPhone.
It was about 4 or 5 days ago. It was 59 cents to buy that he would be out of office by January 1st. It's been fluctuating quite a bit. It's really interesting because what's interesting about it is not just a poll. It's penny stocks, obviously. I mean, I put in $10 and bought, like several shares and different bets and whatever, just to follow different stories. But it is something that you are actually buying in. Like, there is something more to it than just voting on what you think is going to happen. You're actually kind of buying into an outcome, which is a really interesting way to think of predicting an outcome. It's got to be, these data points have got to be very different than what you would see in polls on these things.
How many people, when they get to the polls, will vote against what they would likely vote for in favor of what their bets would be.
Mm-hmm.
How much of a
that's like
betting
when I started
political economy can we turn this into? Now the underdog has the big rider on him, the big win sitting, or her, them. They pan out to be the winner. Hella people get paid. Want to look for the underdog next time. Now this new wave of whoever the underdog is gets voted in because people want to cash out. How does that pan out? Like that's hilarious. Like a conjecture into the future of American politics.
You want to explain what you just posted, Rob?
Yeah,
Like,
so this is a different.
Speaking of that,
yeah, it's like a different kind of model because there's not really a reward in terms of outcomes, but it's
wait, since we're now a visual podcast, you want to share your screen?
Yeah, I was wondering if I could do that. Let's try that, man. Let's give that a whirl. This is gonna be crazy if it works.
So
right. Look how big I am here.
Oh man,
freaking A.
You see in this thing?
Yep.
All right, so unanimous AI gets smarter with Swarm, and I guess the idea. So this, I guess, is a video which we don't necessarily need to watch right now. But this right here, you see this? What is this? Octagon or hexagon? And so it would say, see here, yeah, which is the best index? And then all the people who are currently there, like there's a time limit, 30 seconds in this case, pull their cursor in the direction of the thing that they think is the right answer. And all those other magnets are like other people's cursors. And so basically you feel like almost like a resistance as you do it. There's like a kind of almost interactiveness to it. And anyway, they've claimed that they've like predicted all types of crazy outcomes with this. So it's really similar to the, penny stock thing with those predictions, except there's not that reward like Bjorn you were talking about. So it's like,
that's interesting.
Yeah. Huh. So it's just really, it's kind of crazy stuff.
Well, you can use it as a predictor for yourself. If you go and use that as a broker every morning, you wake up and you use that index, and every other broker uses it too. You've got a feel for trend. You can speak that to your clients, take their money, shovel it around in the ways that you do, and play the feeler of tens of thousands of whatever the number of users that might be on this are. Those are the players behind the whole fucking index anyways. I mean,
I feel like
Bezos doesn't play his money.
It's gonna take me a second to catch up.
Bezos doesn't play his money himself every day. He's got so many other people working for him, playing his money. That line of thinking, if it's all a value set that we self-describe.
Right.
So if you have like long-term for that, I don't really know where that's going to lead. It's going to lead to one index being where to invest your money in, because every time it'll be the same. If enough people who have power and are making choices are all making the same swoop, then you lead to one set of evaluations globally.
I'm really glad that my motion detector doesn't need me to.
Don't you like the dance?
Shot to the camera every once in a while. It's good, especially now that we're a video podcast. It's
I know
fun
we are. It's wild.
Very high tech.
The imaginary idea that we believe in our money is there's a few great podcasts. I saw one recently that I'll pull up for you by the end of the episode. I think it's called something about it's not bad to be smart. And it's a YouTube station you'll find. They had one about money the other day that made me really think about, even in barter, there's always a sense of creating a set of values for something. So in the purest form of exchange, you do this for me, I do this for you, 3 goats, 2 pigs, whatever you come out with the equation, there's an establishment
Three pigs,
of
two goats.
what
Be
some
real.
value has in some sense, right? We have to continue ascribing a value to something to build society. The earliest writing that we know of is accounting. It's cuneiform people, folks in Mesopotamia, making notes in clay about who owes what, how much. It was this many goats, this many bales of wheat, etc. That has this equivalency, and they owe them this much more on the next year. So creating ledgers and accounting, whether it's the barter system or the economic system that we use now, has always been a part of how our equation works as a society. Figuring out how that functions in a future where we have more equity, I think, is the great role of our future 21st century generations. Like, we owe it to ourselves to make a better world. I think we've felt that way for a while. And the economic system is intrinsically how to change that. But to prevent the greed and wealth accumulation that we so see, we still need people to have a work ethic and to want to aspire to something great. But the ideal of being 100 billionaire shouldn't be the end all.
Right. Well, and it's funny because I've been thinking in particular with a lot of these government officials right now who are probably not earning tremendous amounts of money in certain cases, and actually just like their job and shit, but also beyond that, it's their career, but they think, oh God, what if I lose this? Like the fear of what if I lose this job, this livelihood, this income, even for people who have it made, is essentially death, right? Like it's really close to dying or being vulnerable to death at any minute.
It's
really
self-apocalyptic.
Yeah. And it's just weird to me. It strikes me that that's even the case for people who probably have millions of dollars in the bank. You know what I mean? They still are terrified of...
More terrified than people living check to check.
Well, no,
interestingly enough.
Yeah, but I think I would ask if you mean this, because are they more terrified of losing their millions, or are they more terrified of losing their primary revenue stream that allows them...
They're, in my opinion, they're terrified of losing any smidgen of their value.
Yeah.
Any loss is earth-shaking to them.
Yeah, but I guess I'm trying to say and I don't know the answer, but most regular folk probably don't have tons of savings. They might have enough to get by for a while, but not a ton. So for them to lose their primary source of income is basically well, I don't know what I'll do. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It'll run out and then I'll be screwed. But if you've got tens of millions of dollars or a lot of money, even if it's going to run out at some point, you've got a good amount of time to figure it out.
I don't think that realism exists within that class.
Okay. So
I think they're if they were degraded to having to live in a modest home, that would be akin or worse than a person who's living check to check being absolutely homeless and abject from any possibility of figuring it out. Their sense of reality is so askew.
Yeah, but what about? I don't disagree, but I just think.
Can we paint a closer picture of the monoliths that we're describing right now? Who is they?
Well,
people of extreme wealth.
Actually, I think two things. What I'm getting at, or my point, relates more to all people in our society in America, and I'm just using people of extreme means as an example of even they basically fear losing that job, whether they're just a mid-level government employee with a good career, probably a nice house, a fair amount of money in the bank, maybe planning a few trips in the future and stuff. The idea of losing that job is not just like, oh shit, well, I'll just figure something out. It's like, I'd be fucked. Like I don't know what I'd do. That's the worst possible thing that could happen, or like one of the top 5 worst things that could happen. And I'm just saying that fear of losing that income, and because your health benefits are tied to it, it's even more real, right? Because in a lot of cases, it's like, well, if I get fired and then I get sick, like this could be the sequence of events that does me in. So I'm just saying, like, I guess my real point, what I'm trying to get at, is just when Bjorn, you were talking about like building the better society, it strikes me that if everyone's always acting out of fear, that's like the foundational thing that we got to try to change. You know what I mean? Because everybody's terrified all the time. And the reality is we could all get hit by lightning or a bus, or we could get diagnosed with a crazy disease, or we could live 120 fucking years. Nobody really knows, and it's not even fair. Some people who do really bad things live a long time, and some people who have really healthy lives die early, and some people who are rich get poor, and all that different shit. So it's just, you know what I mean? Like, if we're living in fear when so much is unknown and uncertain. What's that?
So what do you think is the, I mean, like, what do you think is the factor that causes us to live in fear in your observation? Like, what is
the economics is what he's talking about.
Yeah, I think so. Right.
Like,
but like
that particular element, like, will you be destitute at the end of this next month?
But why is that true of one of, if not the wealthiest nation in the world? Why is that true for a group of people who are talking about, like, we are all relative to the rest of the world in still single digits
Absolutely.
of the percentile?
Oh yeah.
So why is it true for even the people with the most money that we're all in fear of losing money?
Well, exactly.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Because knowing what poverty is not something that's built into systems that have this much wealth. But it also intrinsically is for some. You have to have, in my opinion, to build the robber baron class, you require a homeless class.
I think you're right.
With nothing. Because the threat of that, the presence in your neighborhood even of that, ensures that you will work for whatever they'll pay you,
right,
in order to pay your rent
at the end
put
of the
a
day.
little ramen on your food, on your table. And so
I think there's
the requirement of it, like, in order to have that gap, is that some people have to be absolutely without and withheld. Not only without, but withheld from access to having. And it's part of this, like, Wild West American culture that we breed that mentality.
Yeah,
it's
I agree.
It's not that it's not present in other parts of the world, like that. You know,
I think
you
you're
have
right.
this sort of personal manifest drive
very
and
American about it.
Need.
Yeah,
to,
well,
like,
that's like that rugged individualism, like pull yourself up from the bootstraps and stuff.
Throughout the Americas, that's kind of that's a motto.
Right, and I think that plays into it in so many ways. The individualistic thing, and also the fear of each other. And that there's not enough. Like, it seems like at the end of the day, it benefits if society had its own interest and it wanted to stay the way it was, then it would benefit society for the people within it to think one another are going to take each other's shit as soon as you let your guard down, and that everyone else is trying to cheat and you're the only one who really is trying to just earn an honest buck.
That's only a society that's based on personal property. Right.
Well, I'm talking about ours.
Modern society, right? But it's modern societies that are based on owning personal property and all about individual property and what we own and what we create and what's ours and etc.
Yeah.
Exactly. But like one thing that I was just thinking about, like, the poverty is distinctly potent in societies that haven't factored it in. And in a society like ours, where we have an assumption of wealth, not just an accumulation of wealth as a society, but we have an assumption that Americans are going to have access to basic things that we think of as cheap, right? We think of, well, yeah, I mean, obviously you can put gas in your tank and you can go to work. Obviously you can, buy a cup of coffee. Obviously you can buy diapers. Like, we think of some things as cheap in our society, and when poverty enters our society, unless those basic needs are met by society, then those things are not at all cheap relative to the amount of money that you can actually make when you're poor, or when you don't have a job and when you're scrambling to make any ends meet. Our society hasn't factored in poverty. But if you look at tribal cultures, they've factored poverty in everywhere. They've factored like sustenance
in what
and
sense?
basic
Describe
need
that.
into their. Well, they've factored in survival without commerce as a part of their culture, right?
Everybody will eat because communally is how you eat.
We're all going to eat. We're going to at least have some drinking water. We're going to make sure you don't get struck by lightning. We're going to protect you from that lion. Yeah. There's some basic things, right? But a homeless person can get beaten to death in an alley in America, and who's actually going to get involved?
No.
So it's like,
fair.
There's an assumption of a basic need, of a basic wealth in America, and everyone under that basic wealth is assumed to deserve it in some way. And this, like, not by everybody, but like the society kind of assumes that, well, if you're in this position, it's because you need to work your way out of it, right?
Yeah.
Not that we need to take care of it.
Yeah. Well, it's the bootstrap mentality. It's pervasive. We know it. We know that it carries so many wrongs with it, and nonetheless, we persist in using that form of not only governing but social ethic. It's a even as progressively minded as we become, and as we think about moving into the this next millennia of centuries and what humans will be like over the coming eons and generations, like
right.
It's not remiss to not take this opportunity as we transition into past the year 2000 into like thinking about
it's past the year 2000.
Well, it's the year 2000 on this like super Western ass agenda linear calendar. Yes.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's for sure. I would love if we picked a cool ass date as to like when Babylon we think was first built, or like when was first, like the first date of the like Nebuchadnezzar's king ascendancy, like to the throne. Like, I don't know, pick that one. Like, let's call it from then. Like, so now we're at 4,000 something. Like, I don't know.
Well, but let's just do it off the Earth's age.
Earth's great. So now we're fucking 4 something billion years old.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. I like.
You might want to use Roman numerals. I'm not sure. Maybe that's too.
We need to pick a fucking number, and scientists love to give you like little.
I think we're gonna need zeros.
Superscript. Superscript. Because the reason I suggest that is I've come to believe that life is created by the planet and any environment. It creates its own life suitable to it. There's life everywhere. It's just not. It's not detectable. Or not every type of life can detect one another. But
dude, did you hear they found another new
statements what Bobby just made?
Bobby kills it with profundity.
He's dropping some pretty profound statements. Like
he's like
the Earth creates life that it wants.
Only our YouTube viewers can rewind it and hear it for what it really is.
Only on YouTube.
Yeah, love you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you. Click subscribe.
Yeah, please do, and like and rate and suggest to sponsors.
Tell us what you hate. We're trying to do better.
Yeah, just don't talk shit. Actually, go ahead. Talk shit. You're gonna do it anyway.
Yeah. Like we like that.
Yeah.
Talk more shit.
I know.
Because then that'll have more comments.
Only-
Please. Talk more shit.
So wait, in our new world, don't talk shit as much.
No. Like, love the dialogue, bro. Let's keep it going. Talk the shit, right?
Yeah.
That's what the future's
I think so.
about.
I think,
but it's not about being personally
I think
offended
the
by
rule
that shit
should be
either.
you have to talk
It's
new
wrong.
shit. You have to talk new shit.
I
think the rule should be you can use cliches as long as they're positive. You can only use creative negativity. You can't use any
cliches only.
negative.
What happens if you use a not positive cliche?
If you use a negative cliche, you're out. You're fucking ruled out. You got to use something creative. If you're gonna say something negative, you got to
like
be
that.
boys.
I like that.
You're out.
Yeah, no, that's not cool. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm thinking to that
Like
point
worse,
though, like
that's cursing.
the way we deal with conflict. I've been looking at this a little bit recently because I've been curious about it on a professional level and a personal level. Types of conflict. Interesting to me. There's a cool graph. It's some German dude that created this idea.
They always
and
create
it's the
stuff like
forms of conflict.
So many
There's,
Germans.
you can call it 5. There's a graph that goes between being
But who could ever know?
being passive and assertive, and there's another bar that goes the horizontal bar, that's the vertical bar, goes between being selfish and being about a community or group think in mind. So
Selfless.
in those, in
German,
that
it's
graph,
like a 17
I'm
syllable word.
gonna name 5 points that exist within that graph.
Friend
In the middle,
Gruppen.
in the middle of them all,
Friendship.
is compromise.
Selfless and communal mindedness.
Yeah,
Einstein. Sorry.
compromise is in the middle of being passive versus aggressive and being selfish versus communally minded. In the bottom corner of being selfish and non-communally minded is avoidance.
Avoid. Okay.
Further along the course of being passive and communally minded, more communally minded, is appeasement. Now, above that is compromise, sitting in the center. And north of it, on the aggressiveness curve, to the left, in a more selfish manner, you've got competition. To the right of that, both assertive and, in the groupthink communal mind, collaborative. So these terms are just terms, right? But we can depict and think about so many instances in our lives where the idea of going from avoiding a conflict to being collaborative on a conflict could happen.
Yeah.
We've
I think there was some of that spirit
yeah.
in the founding of the old-fashioned USA, man. You know?
Absolutely, yeah.
Because there wasn't supposed to be parties.
So the collaboration is the highest form of being of yourself and, in this mind think, of the group.
Well,
that is what we have now.
Yeah.
In a trio here in this sense. We come from potentially like and dislike backgrounds, and we share malehood and Caucasianness largely amongst us.
Triad.
So there's that part. Nonetheless,
tripod.
I think in offering like verbose to these distinct ideas on a macro level, the three of us like represent in some way the capacity to collaborate on ideas in a really high regard. And when we get sucked into ideas of competition on ideas or compromise on ideas, we should know and be aware of the fact that there is always a route out of that to the higher form to where we can be collaborative. And finding how to distill any idea. And this is like a facilitation for like any thought and project, like just like the person who's the quietest in the group typically has some of the grandest ideas, and they're often too shy about sharing them. And the collaborative effort only benefits when all parts are contributing. And
well, that's funny because that Simon Sinek, you know that dude, Sinek.
Yep.
Yeah, he has
start with why.
Yeah, which is interesting in itself. But he had like these 5 or some X number of rules that he thinks you should live by, or whatever, or that are the secrets to success. And yeah, I like one of them was I was just listening to his thing, and one of them was about getting what you want. And he used an example of like, it was kind of weird to be honest, but he was saying, he was trying to do 2 analogies in one. He was saying like, so people, he was in a race or like a 5K or something in Central Park. They do this frequently, and at the end of it, there's usually like tables set up with free bagels or whatever, some sort of promo, but some business is doing. So they got done with the run, and he and his buddy see that they're giving away free bagels, and he's like, let's go get some free bagels. And his buddy is like, no, look at the line. You know, I don't want to do that. And so then his first like little analogy is that he sees the bagel, he sees what he wants. His buddy sees the obstacle, you know, and they both pick one of those 2 things as really their focal point. And then what was kind of weird is he somehow said he basically cut in line and stole a bagel, but he didn't hurt anybody doing it. So that's like how life works, that you can make your own rules and you can take whatever you want as long as you don't take well, he said, as long as you don't take from someone else or hurt someone else. You know what I mean? But you don't have to do it the way he was like, so I could have waited in line and then I would have asked what, you know, I could have gotten a sesame bagel or everything bagel or whatever. But since I just reached through, I don't know, it was very odd that was
I don't see that working that often. Like,
but that's how the man,
the bagel line is rarely cut, my friend. Like, and if so, oh, you're an offender. Like, cause you know, man, it's the morning, bro. You're at that bagel trying to get after some fucking nutrition, and you had a rough evening. You got a bunch of other young folks in the line with you trying to wait on this bagel. Man, ooh, don't cut that line.
The thing is, though, like, you don't even have to, like, make it. The dude just get, like, they just ran a fucking race, and he cut in line with all the other runners. Like, what the hell?
I know. Well, he didn't exactly cut. He just reached through.
Just as hard as you.
I know.
What
it
does
was kind of
reach
shady.
through mean? I don't get it.
It wasn't a pretty picture he painted.
Somebody made a bad order. Somebody screwed up and took theirs.
Well,
like,
rule number like 3.
I think Simon Sinek just slandered himself.
His credibility is not as high, and that's probably my fault. But
Doobie has said best.
One of his other Bjorn, you'd like this one. Like lesson number 3 was, well, it was about the quietest person having the idea or whatever, but he's saying particularly like in a business.
So he's just lying at this candy store with a bunch of kids, right?
I didn't follow that.
He's in line at a candy store with a bunch of kids.
Yeah.
So it starts with him. He's in line at a candy store with a bunch of kids, and rule number 3.
And cuts them all to get
across.
Then his other thing was like regarding the quieter person. Basically, he was saying like, if you as like, let's say the facilitator of the meeting or whatever, come in and say, okay, we got to make this decision, or if it's like your business or whatever, what do you guys think? Or you start with what you think. You've poisoned the well. Like, so he was basically saying like, to be the leader is to be the very last person to speak, and to, even if you have your own opinion, like, hear everyone, and he's like, don't nod yes when you agree with the person, and don't shake your head no when you disagree. Just listen, and then when everybody's had their chance, he's like, you'll have the benefit of actually having heard everybody's opinions versus assuming what everyone's opinions are based on your presumptions. And then, you know what I mean? Like, so it's just really similar to what you were saying of like how easy it is to influence people to give you bad info if you're not careful, and how easy it is to ignore the good info, but that if you get the good and pay attention to it, you know, it can be rather effective. So,
hey man, I mean, Hey, it's old game. It's how fools have been manipulating fools and playing people all over this world for ages.
Yeah.
Like it's knowing the psychology of man. It's being a fucking player. It's like it's
Yeah, I'm with it.
it's
Well,
it's
he
difficult to
supposedly.
put names on what it is, but like I feel like at one point we talked about the FOXP2 gland and what or gene shit.
Doesn't
Fox
matter
gland.
about
Sorry,
what
my
point.
bad.
Doesn't matter if we did, because it's all new.
It's in the
Yeah, I know.
archives.
But that
in the
FOXP2, according to anthropologists and geneticists, is a hallmark of a linguistic shift and capacity that a bunch of animals share. But ours, there's like another mutation on it that's evolved sometime relatively recently, between sometime in the last 10,000 years, most likely. So this mutation on the FOXP2 gene has spread to a diversity of folks that have like, I think 10 to 20% of the people on Earth have both of the new dominant FOXP2 gene, and like 50% have the old gene, and 40 or something percent have a variant of both genes.
I'm gonna need to see final charts.
So
Data.
So it's just there's like this idea that's been bandied about following this genetics, the fact that the FOXP2 influences linguistics, in particular, like the way that the vocal skill works. They think that like there could be people who have a certain advantage set, and therefore this genetic marker has been more successful than other mutations in moving through a widespread bit of the human population in a really quick amount of time. These mutations tend to take a lot longer to affect the global population. And because of like elements of success in our new society, the way we formed it out of hunter-gatherism into agro-industrialism, this FOXP2 genetic change has led some people to be more successful. Whether that's like how Trump talks, I don't think that's the game.
Right.
I personally think maybe he's speaking on to the other side of the
Well, probably.
non-receptive
If you're if I think maybe that's the
mutation.
real.
I mean,
but there's and it's not to like it's funny because like you bring up this topic and there's so many other topics.
what like it begs the question? Like
It's not. This is not high horse riding or like trying to like create accolades for people who are verbose. Like,
right.
This is not like saying, "Oh, you are really special because you use more words." This is a totally different familiarity with language and the way it moves.
You can't use better words with Trump though, because he uses the best words.
This is theatrics. This is
that's fact. He said so himself.
He told us he has
unmatched wisdom, I believe, was the words he used the other day.
Well, now
in describing how he would deal with the Syria issue,
and
now we got cities on fucking fire.
Which is an interesting segue because I've been thinking like,
it is unmatched.
are we at the cusp of the next world war? Because wait, what is this? Like, this is him playing into a geopolitical trap, is it not? Like he just did something that has consequences. For decades.
So deep. It's deeper than the fucking attack on the Saudi oil fields.
Right.
And I'll tell you why, because of the Russian involvement in particular. And so here's the key. It's so funny. This impeachment shit comes up.
Yeah.
And he's really not sure that his team's got his back anymore.
Right.
There's a couple defectors. There's a couple people on the fence.
Like that pompous asshole Mitt Romney.
Oh, so they don't have my back anymore?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well then let me throw everybody under the bus and go back to my real supporter, Mr. Putin, who got me this job. And talk to him about what he's interested in doing here in the near future. He wants me to fucking pull us out of Syria so that his homies will be poked. His Turkish homies. And Iran might be stoked about that too. Let's just clear the Kurds off the field so that Iran can make the arc all the way to Lebanon complete. And Turkey can even fucking get rid of the Kurds who've been causing all these problems. They're the basic, only real internal issue as far as terrorism and some Armenian shit that the Turks have to deal with. Boom. Handle those issues. Russians stoked. Who cares about Lindsey Graham anymore? Because he's part of them motherfuckers that don't care about me. They don't got my back. Oh, watch how quick it turns. I feel we're dealing with a child. This is a child.
I know, but where's the
totally? Can I make so I was listening to this podcast about the Ukraine story, and I thought of an analogy for Trump as a kid on a school playground. Think about it this way. Junior high, middle school playground. He walks out to school for the first time. He's a new kid. He spies the scene. There's a bully on the playground picking on another kid, just beating the shit out of him over and over again, and no one seems to care, right? There are some little cliques over here and there, so he decides, what I'm going to do is wait until the bully turns his back, and I'm going to go to the kid he's picking on, and I'm going to steal that kid's money, and I'm going to give it to the bully. The bully is Russia. He says, I'm going to buddy up to the bully, and I'm just going to give him the shit he's trying to take. Then once I've got the bully on my side, I'm going to go back to the fucking victim, Ukraine, and I'm going to put pressure on him. Say, guys, I've got Russia on my side now. You're going to get to work for me and help me take over the fucking cheerleading squad or whatever the fuck the analogy is. When that blows up in my face and the cheerleading squad is pissed off at me, now I just turn to some other random victim and start a fucking fire. The whole point is that this shit is always meant to be chaos for me to get whatever's immediately in front of me and get out of whatever.
Well,
it was never about us.
Well, that's fact, but now we're at this late stage where the stakes are super high. So to me, I'm looking at it like, all right, he may very well, like you said, know he's lost the support of the Republicans behind the scenes in terms of the Senate. Maybe not, or maybe he just fears that'll happen. But he probably is thinking like, all right, what are the ways that I don't end up like in jail, basically? Because like if the Democrats win the impeachment, I'm going to jail, like, or I'm going to be under so many criminal investigations that I can't shield myself from unless someone pardons me, and Pence is probably going down too if that's the case. So I think he's got to look at it like, okay, Republican Senate is one way to kind of survive, but it might not be really optimal. Whereas like Turkey and Russia as exile locations, as Edward Snowden type, Julian Assange refuge, if it really comes down to it, maybe what he's actually, like what if Putin said, look, man, you're fucked in the US. You're going to be in jail. Your only hope is me. Do what I say, or you won't even, like, you'll either be in jail or you'll be executed, versus like, that might be the threat. So he could be acting out of that type of self-interest, you know what I mean, of just survival. And therefore doing the will of whoever can offer him a lifeline.
Yes, I think that's exactly what it is. He's reaching out to who he knows has got his back, and there's never anybody in the actual political establishment that had his back, because he was an outsider. That's what his whole drain the swamp shit was all about. Yeah. He didn't know any of those dudes. He hadn't shook hands with them fucks. Well, you know what I mean? Happens to be they both come from different brands of fucking slimy.
Oh, you're talking about he hadn't shook hands with Putin?
With Washington. No, I'm talking about his Republicans in Washington. Like, even climbing through his campaign, he hadn't gotten his hands dirty and really knowing how American government worked.
Oh no,
or how
he still doesn't know that.
People in the Senate behaved and what little factions there were, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He just fucking winged it all, man. This guy has been winging it from the get. He didn't expect to fucking win. He thought he expected to lose. He just got the windfall of the Comey shit the weekend before the election. I believe that changed it all.
Yeah.
I believe that Comey windfall changed it all. And the rejection of the windfall on the Monday following was too late. It didn't make enough difference. And I mean, it was like, and that piece of historical moments I think will be remembered, or ought be remembered, as the deciding factor on that presidency. This shit we've dealt with for a couple years.
So, well, it will be then the deciding factor.
Let me ask you a question. Can I ask a question? So, knowing what we now know about Trump, does it really matter if there was ever a smoking gun with Russia now? Because now we know.
Of course, it still matters.
He will. Well, no, right, but like now, it still matters to know. We need to know. But what I mean is, now we know that he will work with them.
He's eager.
And the fact that he's eager to, and the fact that now he has a motive and an opportunity, and that Russia sees an opportunity, means he can't be trusted not to work with them, no matter what happens next. If he's not imprisoned in America, he cannot be trusted not to be a Russian spy from this point forward.
I don't get how that math doesn't make more sense.
I know. Or how
he hasn't been arrested already.
Yeah. Right. How it's not more obvious.
Straight up, send some fucking agents to the door, dog.
Well, it is crazy.
The thing is, like, it's not just his intention, just to be clear. Like, if you're Russia, if you're Vladimir Putin and you're watching all this, even if you've only had these even if you, like, in the best case scenario for, whatever reason that, like, you've only had these brief interactions with Trump. Now you've been able to watch this story unfold. Yeah. And you say, well, it's not that hard to get him. No. Like, it wouldn't be, like, once this is all done, he now works for me. Yeah.
I'll arrest him.
So even if he wasn't in the pocket, before, now he is a supernatural international security risk. If he is in this country at all,
why I'm saying,
unless he's behind bars.
Oh, you think he's going to disappear on us? What would that be like? Oh, shit.
Well, he's not going to disappear.
Trump tried to disappear?
He's not going to disappear. He's too arrogant. But
I know. I agree with you. I'm just throwing it out.
But I think, like the probably more dire way to look at it, though, as of today, is like, okay, some shit just started to like so he, if I can follow just like the last 2 days, he suddenly announced that we were going to pull out from defending the Kurds, and he said that Turkey would not
wag the dog,
would not invade, and that if they did, his whatever wisdom that you described would be
unmatched.
Yeah, his unmatched wisdom, and then he'd use economic sanctions against Turkey or something. Turkey did it the next day. He claimed it. So it's moving pretty fast, but now there's a NATO country. Okay, hold on. NATO let Turkey in, and now Turkey is invading what was apparently actually a fledgling Kurdish state. I don't know the name of it offhand, but it was like it had its own government. This area that Erdogan, I don't know how to fucking say his name.
Erdogan.
What?
I've heard Erdogan.
Okay.
Erdogan.
Okay, I can't say that. I don't know how, but that guy, that he was saying he wanted to create the safe zone, which is just over the fledgling state of the Kurds. You know what I mean? So a NATO country is doing that in Syria, another country. So it's basically invading kind of two countries. Russia and Turkey already have some beef. Remember that ambassador that was killed at the thing? And then there was like a plane shot down. It's been kind of rocky. And then but so Turkey as a NATO ally gets into some shit now, fighting in a war zone in the same place as Russia. There's going to be some high stakes. So then does NATO come in, the rest of NATO to back up Turkey? Meanwhile, that's going to seem like a bad bet to most of NATO, right? Because they're going to be like, wait a minute, here we are defending somebody for invading innocent people, because so they're not going to do it. So then NATO is moot. It's rendered useless. So Putin's huge aim.
Turkey might lose its status in the NATO.
Well,
and yes, that's why their reliance on Russia makes sense too.
But also not before the point of NATO is just completely rendered useless anyway, because all of a sudden this whole so that's a huge win for him.
Whoa,
you see what I mean?
So the effect on the Baltics and the Scandinavian countries is huge.
How so?
Well,
I don't doubt it.
They're NATO members.
Elaborate.
They're NATO members.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's this question mark around how people are going to support and interact with NATO engagements, that's going to send shockwaves throughout the whole community. Who's in, who's out? What are we fighting for? What attacks next? Sweden just now, announced that they were moving their entire navy to an underground facility. They built this shit in the Cold War in the 60s and 70s to house a third of their actual naval ships under a mountain of granite that you can access through ship-wide portals to the open sea.
That's pretty cool.
So they can fucking...
It's very Dr. Evil kind of shit.
Yeah. Oh, times 10 shit, dude. Yeah. They got hella fucking boats down there ready to go get surviving on a nuclear attack and come out ready to shoot. Anyways, the reason being, they determined, the Swedish Navy, that the threat from Russia over the coming decades was such that they needed to go back to Cold War protocol.
Yeah, I think that's probably accurate, and it's because the disinformation has been so successful. You remember, I think we had all talked about it at one point. There was some dialogue between a Russian diplomat or statesperson and an American or something, and the Russian person said to the other one that they had developed a weapon that was as powerful as the nuclear bomb or 10 times more powerful or something, and that they were, it involved the internet or something. So we've all been chasing our tails on some of the symptomatic things that they've done, but if you look at the greater picture, I was listening, Mishak, you listened to the podcast from the New York Times, and they were following freshman Congresswoman Alyssa Slotkin, who is one of the former CIA staff that wrote the op-ed saying she supported impeachment that was right before Nancy Pelosi announced the impeachment inquiry. And they followed her to 3 different town halls that she went to. She went back to her district this week. And so they had audio from these different things. And at one point, they're playing, the first one she goes to is in a county that's much more Democratic leaning. And generally they're pretty supportive of her. But her district, she's one of those whatever they call them, swing districts or what have you. Yeah. So she goes into some of the 2 others, and increasingly the people are just you hear the audio of them. It's well, I liked you, I thought you were a great young woman, and I heard you on Fox News talking, and I thought you were much better than those Democrats like Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi. But then I heard you that you were, jumping in on this socialist coup against our president, and you lost me entirely there. That's where, you just went way too far, blah, blah, blah. And she's trying to explain herself, and she's like, look, here's what I know. And she's super, courteous and eloquent, and says, she, our intelligence agencies and all these different, trying to paint the picture of how we know what we know and why she thinks what she thinks. And the woman's like, well, he can't trust. Like what she said was, if he was serious about needing someone investigated, then he would use the FBI. Like, why would you go to another country unless you were up to dirty tricks, right? And then the woman's like, well, he can't trust the FBI and the CIA right now. And so just the idea that random people who don't have a fucking clue what they're talking about believe that Trump, can't support or can't trust the government. Basically, the whole point. The whole
they're in
point,
a Tom Clancy novel.
Yeah, but they're deep in it, and they really believe it now, and they believe in this deep state thing, and they believe in this Pizzagate shit and all this fucking complete nonsense. And so they really genuinely think, you know what I mean, that like the CIA
Snake
almost got him. What's that?
I said the snake is finally eating its tail. What I was thinking about the other day was, like before Trump, we had Fox News all the way through the Bush administration, kind of creating the scene for what Trump would ultimately be. Because after Obama, all that Fox News had generated was this cloud of talking points that were so rife and so controversial and so ridiculous, with so many red herrings and straw men and etc. And Trump, who is addicted to Fox News, and he gets on the campaign trail regurgitating Fox News back to Fox News viewers, and Fox News viewers see him and think, finally somebody who gets it. Yeah. Finally somebody who what I'm seeing, right?
Yeah, he's steeped in the same bullshit.
So we connect. We see the world the same way. Well, yeah, because you're both watching Fox News. And then the president starts behaving this way, and Fox News comes back and says,
and they back him up.
Fox News watchers, the only thing that you can trust is the president, because the president is trusting us. So don't trust anybody who the president says he can't trust.
Right, exactly.
Because the president is watching us.
I wonder where Rupert... it ain't quite Rupert himself, most likely, but it's his homies.
Who run the whole show?
Murdoch. Hey, man, players in the billionaire class. I bet you anything. There's people who are of the billionaire class that are just rich. And then there's others, who through family value and long years of playing games and getting in, have their tentacles around the world and are in the billionaire class and play that role, but their presence is so much deeper than your Bezoses and your Gates, who just got rich this generation. They're everywhere.
I think this is funny because to me, maybe this is a good kind of segue to full circle and kind of some degree of closure, because the same people who are afraid to lose their job because they fear death somehow translate to this, I guess on the opposite end of the spectrum, you're saying there's these billionaires, but they're scared too, right? Why else would they be?
Right.
Why else would they be trying to manipulate everything in their own way unless they felt like there was a real chance they or their family couldn't, survive, I guess, or would be somehow at a basically their awareness that shit is so rigged and unfair makes them say, well, then I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you're at the top and shit's fucked up, that means kind of like you were saying, the opposite end of the spectrum would be to be homeless. That's an equal possibility. I don't want that, so I gotta fight for me. I gotta do what's good for me and my family, not what's fair to humankind. So it's just this inherent flaw in society as it stands, in at least Western and modern society, that these billionaires, whatever they're planning and plotting together, even that is only one thing, because you got these autocrats, like Putin and stuff, who are doing their thing, and nobody's really worried about just creating a better world, really. Everybody's just trying to survive and duck the assholes who want to fuck everybody else up. I don't know. I'm not
Not only
Okay,
that,
I just thought of a great metaphor for that. We've all been mountain climbing, and we've all been to a peak in some way. And when you stand on the peak of anything, it's more and more narrow. And if there's a crowd around you, and you're standing at the top, and other people want to stand at the top, you know the only way somebody else can stand there is for you to get off of that peak.
Yeah. Kind of zero sum.
So, and in this metaphor, the higher up you are, and the higher up this peak is, right?
Ooh.
The higher
Even
up
the
the
top
peak
is zero sum.
Right, absolutely. And the higher up you are, the more dangerous it is if something goes wrong and you fall from that
That's
place.
hard, right?
But that's exactly the problem. Money gives you the illusion that you're going to fall further than someone else. It gives you the illusion that it's harder for you to be broke than some other human. Because
who else
you were
lost
so
$1
rich.
billion? Like, except for somebody worth $126 billion that just went down to 125.
Right. Yeah, it is just crazy though. It's like,
but like that loss is an illusion.
Right.
Absolutely.
That protection is an illusion, and that zero sum game is real. That money is real because it's money that's taken from the people at the bottom.
Yeah.
But the fall is an illusion.
Unquestionably.
But I mean, and this is probably a whole nother can of worms for another time, but in a world where money isn't backed by any precious commodity and everything's increasingly digital, and we're putting a value on, I guess, how much time people spend doing things and how much material and how difficult it is to obtain. So a cell phone has a lot of difficult to obtain material, specialized building and all this, you know what I mean? So the value of that is X, or, if you work to build that and you're critical to it, then your value is Y. But at the end of the day, it's like not even, it's just a fantasy. You know what I mean? It's not even anything.
Absolutely.
It's not as if, like, what would be interesting is if the money was backed by like raw food numbers. You know what I mean? Like water and food, right? Like, and shelter. Like somehow, like all of our money can be represented in homes for everybody and food and water, and then this is a stockpile or so. It's just quite bizarre.
I don't think that it can't. And I think that we have countries in this world that represent the fact that it can.
Right.
And there's no shaking the fact that although they have different population scales and resource accesses, that the United States and other countries can't model that. And instead of investing such fucking massive amounts into machines of war,
right,
this country can focus on providing a universal basic income.
Yeah,
exactly.
Complete medical coverage and housing for absolutely everyone.
Okay, but fear again. Check it out.
You have the right to survive.
But here's the fear again.
Yeah.
So you have the right to survive here.
So the United States at this point, it's like natural resource, so to speak, is its war building machine, right?
Completely. Right. But we're also completely isolated from any need to engage in that, which is what the fact is. When you look back 100 years and change at the sentiment in this country prior to World War I, the isolationism that existed then and existed prior to World War II, which is why we were so recalcitrant about entering the engagement to begin with, is because we knew we were isolated as a continent that only had to deal with Canada and Mexico as far as land incursions and invasive forces. So, and neither of them are an issue with us. Well, we're happy with our neighbors, largely.
But
so we just don't have the issue that a lot of other Eurasian and African countries have, whereas their neighbor can fucking launch a great military campaign against them and fuck them up. We don't have that.
Okay,
That's not here.
But haven't we also identified, even if we haven't identified the exact moment that Franz Ferdinand was shot, haven't we at least identified Franz Ferdinand of the death of his empire?
But look, the Franz Ferdinand is the new Franz Ferdinand is the reason that America doesn't need to be the overseer of world hegemonic police state.
Well, now we can't be. Now we can't be. Like
well, no, we
continue
said,
to
right?
be
because of our Navy.
The Donald Trump and Russia connection is what I mean. That story is a historic turning point, and it's going to take a historic turning point to avoid that being a moment that is a sinking fucking ship.
Well, okay,
Empire of the United States.
Scope out
all of this positioning. All I'm getting to, all this positioning that we don't have to be in war. That is totally true until this moment, and that's exactly the problem.
Okay, all right. Now scope out a little further, because in the geopolitical side of it, so if building weapons of war is the United States, the thing we got the big heads up on, or the head start on. You know what I mean? Like, that was the thing that we really excelled at. It's, in a sense, it's zero sum, because if you don't build the best weapons, someone else might, right? And so, like,
absolutely,
it's a self-fulfilling kind of thing. But our monopoly on that also, which we've basically had in a lot of ways, you know, for what it, like, at least on like the countries that like are playing with like a certain class of weapons, you know, we've been the ones who make that shit and sell our old stuff to people. But even now, that too is going to be really hard to do if
we've entered the drone age. It's a whole new age,
and we're just broken. Like we're destroyed. Like what? I don't know.
We don't have the capacity. We've invested all of our shit in this holding down the oceans.
Right.
And we're willing to cede. Our Air Force is great, but they're great on 1998 standards. And the new drone war that will be fought in this century is not something we can compete with on the Eurasian landmass. Their reach and etc. is not going to be something we fuck with. And so there's going to be a whole new geopolitical landscape that evolves throughout Eurasia over the coming 100 years.
It's just
that's where the vital wars are going to be fought.
But
and
let's
the
just point out,
people are going to suffer and die because of it.
Let's just point out, we're not only valuable as a country because we make weapons. We're valuable as a country also because we buy shit. And we buy shit from all over the world, and we love buying shit.
But we have the money to buy shit because we're selling the weapons.
Right, exactly. But that's also why we make the weapons.
And we'll continue to
fund
fund those
around
wars.
The world are low enough.
I know, but
are low enough
for you gotta
keep buying shit, right?
Think
we are
back,
valuable
though.
as a country because we're rich. Is my point.
But they won't be able to buy it anymore.
To the rest of the world.
They won't be able to afford it anymore if the global economy tanks. We're all too intertwined now.
If you were the president of Russia, that's his title, right? Putin, president or prime minister? President.
Sure.
He's the overlord of Russia. Yeah.
But if you were looking at it 10 years ago and you were like, all right, these guys make badass weapons. They have really high-tech technology. You know, like they've got this big lead, basically. But you started like scoping out further and further and looking at like, well, what is the lead based on? Okay, it's like based on being able to make weapons and have this technology. Well, what are the fundamentals of those things? Like, you got to trust them, right? You got to know that they're the best. You have to know that technology can't be defeated. You got to know that weapon is the primary one, right? So slowly but surely, just every basis for anything having legitimacy, not just like information, but just anything at all. Like, you know what I mean? Like even our like, I was thinking this PGE energy thing that's going on where they're shutting power off. How do we know, A, that that's not our own government running a drill for if we had a cyber attack, or B, actually a ransom cyber attack that we're experiencing right now, for example? We have no way to know that those two things aren't the case. So,
or a shortcoming of allowing private corporations to govern your fucking public utilities.
Well, and it could be just that simple as well. But you know what I mean? Like given the fact that it's been acknowledged that our infrastructure and power and water supplies are so subject to infiltration or whatever else, how would we know that that's not like at ransom with the Turkey thing right now? Like, what if somebody told Trump, we're turning the power off in California for X, or in a certain region for X amount of time unless you do this? Like all of the things that we used to have that made us like just like you couldn't fuck with us, like, really don't matter anymore. You know what I mean? There's really nothing. It's like the playing field just got equaled, and we still thought it wasn't for a 10-year. We're like 10 years behind now. We have equipment that's really nice and all this stuff, but it's already outdated.
I feel that.
It's like you remember the game. You remember the game Risk, where like at a certain point, like the whole map is occupied, and now like it's all about strategic alliances and ganging up on one person at a time to get people out of the game, and like trying to find ways around having to like go head on against the biggest fighter, and what like that's kind of what it feels like now. Like the nuclear battle has engaged to such a point that, with the exception of a couple of countries like North Korea and etc., like there's a handful that we lose. Want them, right? But there's a handful that still want them and don't have them. But for the most part, the people who want them have them, and the map is pretty much full, right? From a standoff standpoint. And now, like, we have to engage in this other sort of asynchronous type of warfare, and it's information, it's political warfare, it's, like you're saying, Bob, like online, like infrastructure warfare. It's all this other stuff because the Mexican standoff of the nuclear battle has reached its peak. We got to find some other way to gain power, because the mutually assured destruction is.
Well, and to that point, and I think this is kind of an interesting thing to notice, is if you use the brute force weapons, it not only kills a lot of people, which is at least inconvenient, if not immoral, right? Depending on who you are, but it also destroys infrastructure, buildings, all this. It requires like a lot of cleanup, a lot of things that are not ideal.
Messy.
Whereas, like, if you look at the fact that there's probably 30% of Americans right now that would welcome Russia, like Trump supporters, literally, Putin and Trump just said, hey, guess what, guys? We're starting a new country. It's called American Russia. You know what I mean? Like, I think these 30% of the people go,
West
sweet,
Russia. Let's
do it. Fuck everyone else. Those assholes have totally taken our jobs and whatever else, and it's time we get those libtards back.
It's so cool though.
WeRo.
From the Russian spin.
WeRo, West Russia.
Check the Russian spin though. It's dope though. I was thinking about this earlier. Putin comes to Trump during the candidacy and says, "Hey man, you want to make America great again? Remember when it was dope? We had that Cold War going. It was you guys versus us guys, and we both benefited. We both were the two contenders in this world. And our country didn't mind being vilified by you guys because we could play that as victim. That's victimhood. That's like us.
Right.
We're both still winning. So, hey, how about you do everything you can? And I'll instruct you on the way to return our world to one where we have a bipolar, like, opposite sharing of power. You have a clear enemy, which you need. You can fluctuate, move all of your military towards us and have a recourse for it all for the American public. Oh, yeah. We got to contain the Russian threat. Remember when that was a need? That was great. It was the easiest write-off you guys ever made. Here we are. We're ready to be the write-off. And for us, you guys are the best write-off we ever had. We can mobilize the whole fucking country on victimhood and fucking like national fucking sensibilities. We're gonna have like mass fucking. We're changing our country based on you guys playing this part.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, Trump had a speech at the UN last week. I don't know. Time is weird these days, but he said.
Yeah, it was like 2 weeks ago. You're right.
Yeah, it was like very much about nationalism, and how like the world in the future doesn't belong to globalists, and that's very, I think that's very Putin, and I think, or at least that's the rhetoric. But the thing is, he's see, just like Trump, Putin's using that rhetoric to try to get everybody to go, oh, yeah, man, like we need to worry about our own people and we need to do all this, as if he's gonna then do that. He's just trying to get everybody to stop. Exactly. To stop putting a hand in so he can put two hands in. You know what I mean? It's not that he's trying to, but he's telling someone like Trump, probably, I don't know. Maybe it's far too nice of a way to look at it. But I think he's just saying, hey, man, you guys just, why would you be worried about all the shit going on in the rest of the world? You got enough to worry about. You got a huge, biggest fucking country around, or one of the biggest countries, you need to just think about that, like, and prosper, and you guys can
bigger fish to fry.
Yeah, and I think that's Trump's like, yeah, theoretically, but actually he's like, no, I just want to get rich off anything and everything.
Rocky.
People keep renting rooms in my hotel and not showing up.
I can't even say it. Like, as I was saying it, I just couldn't even say it because the truth is,
steroided.
The reality is Trump doesn't believe that. Trump is just looking for a business deal. He just wants money, and that's it.
Hey, the Ellen DeGeneres and Bush shit.
Oh yeah, that was interesting.
That brought the whole limelight to me of the terribleness of Republican presidents back to the forefront. Like, oh yeah, no, Bush is a war criminal. He should be tried for that. Mm-hmm. He fucking oversaw all sorts of most heinous shit that ever existed. He should be tried for it at The Hague.
Right.
He should go to fucking jail. He's a war criminal.
Right.
And Ellen DeGeneres wants to be pals.
Well, yeah.
So like the whole cycle and feedback on that one was really telling about American culture and where we are, and who came to rally.
Exactly where I can totally see Donald
it encompasses everything.
Totally see that.
We live in this world where, like, look, Ellen DeGeneres is now Trump, and George W. Bush is now Putin. And they were at the World Cup fucking game with Russia and the U.S. and decided nobody's going to win. It's going to be a fucking tie so we can go back to fucking game on. Let's wait for the next 4 years, keep status quo, keep our oligarchs pimping. Everybody's got oligarchs. What's the deal? Why y'all got oligarchs? Both sides of the ocean. It's all robber baron world, man.
That's
right now. Hey,
and that's why you got to give it to Bernie, man. This guy's basically been calling that shit out forever.
What I'm talking about.
But what I want to unpack maybe in a future episode is the weird, whether they're accusations or there's truth to them, I don't know. But this thing that like Bernie is more or less like influenced by or working for Russia, that's like a theme out there that I think you haven't heard that.
Of course. Why not?
No.
You've heard it, right, Misha?
I love that.
Yeah, I mean, like, great. No, but like, of course.
Well, like a lot of people believe like, and it's probably true. Many of his like social media supporters are Russian bots, and that doesn't mean like that his real supporters. I mean, I love the guy. I'm down for Bernie,
right.
But I'm just saying there are real people there. But there's whatever you call that, a sense or a belief out there that it's not all legit. And it's not just him. He and Tulsi Gabbard in particular are like the two main people accused of that.
Of course, it makes sense though.
Gabbard is super questionable, and
Yeah,
Bernie
which is
does
why.
like, you know, I did a poll on Twitter many months ago. You guys, I think, saw it, and it was one of the few things I've ever done that had like thousands of reactions, and it was fucking votes on this poll, and Bernie blew. It was like, you know, Bernie versus Warren, Biden, and Harris or some shit. I don't know, whoever I thought the front runners were going to be at that point. And Bernie had like 70%, and everybody else was splitting that last 30 out of thousands and thousands of votes on Twitter. And it just wasn't, it just, there was something odd about it. I'm sure Bernie might have been by far the favorite, but like that extreme at that time just made no sense.
No, it does make sense though.
Not if you look at how Twitter works.
Out to.
No, well, yeah, exactly. But Twitter, it's infiltrated. It's looking at, there's real people, there's fake people, and there's amplifiers, and there's relayers, and there's all these different things. It's information warfare out there, you know, and
it is.
And
really, we are behind. Behind. To me, Shaq's point, we're way behind.
Yeah.
Both your point. I mean, you brought it up first, Rob. You're
Doesn't
right.
matter.
There is a different type of warfare. Fuck the Navy and all the shit they represent. You're right. There's a different type of warfare going on. And America is at the back end of it. We're just trying to figure it out.
But let's just say...
But we're not going to admit that we lost until we lose another fucking presidency to these dumb fucks. And more of the shit gets taken over. Like,
and how are we going to know?
Straight up, we lost like a few years ago.
Well, we don't know that the losses we had were legitimate when it came to Bush and Trump. And now Trump is openly asking foreign nations to interfere with the process by which he would be reelected, and we're supposed to then think if he does win, it's trustworthy.
Legit?
Yeah, it's, I don't know, like, you have to be so fucking stupid,
reelected
man.
again in this fucking nation. Oh my god.
Well, if he does, I mean, come on. 30% of the people.
How many times in our lifetime has an incumbent party won the election?
Every time except
election, except for George W. Bush.
No.
Or George Bush Sr. Sorry,
not the reelection. Not the reelection of any candidate, but after 2 terms or whatever. Like, how many times has after Bush. 2 terms? Bush won from Reagan?
Yeah, that's the only one.
Since, like, how far back?
Well, I'm going to 1980 because I know you said in our lives we're all...
Jimmy Carter had 1 term.
Yeah, that would be it.
Gerald Ford finished his term. Before that, in the 70s, you had Nixon. You had LBJ finish the 60s to 68. Nixon started his 2nd term and then resigned.
So Reagan to, like...
So, let's go to 60.
As predictable as it gets.
In what sense?
I mean, the pattern of, like, the party flipping. It's just a coin flip. It's literally...
It does go back and
just
forth.
Flipping back and forth.
Because it's like unanimous AI. The country's pulling. And...
The amount... Yeah, it's just like... So, I mean, like, the example you used, Bob, is like George W. Bush and Trump. And I just thought, well, yeah, like, both of those seemed like if they had flipped the other way, they would have broken the pattern. If Al Gore had won after Clinton, it would have been a phenomenal shift in the pattern of politics.
Okay, wait. Are you saying that the powers that be allow for the pendulum to swing?
A conspiracy. I'm not suggesting a conspiracy. I'm just acknowledging the pattern. But that those 2 examples specifically are 2 examples where you're calling out that we have a president who didn't win the popular vote in both of those examples. And they were both examples in which, had that president not won, this pattern would have been broken.
Yeah, but it only started really with Bush in that respect, because Clinton represented coming off of 12 years of Republican presidencies, you know what I mean? Yeah. But regardless, I
Oh,
I hate to do this, but I have to rewind to my own thing that I thought of on the fly because I'm like, it's like I'm dwelling on it. The power thing. What if this is a ransom attack? Like, what if another country is literally dictating our executives' moves? You know what I mean? I just think
I don't doubt it.
I think it would explain the turkey thing so much.
Hey. What if he said, do you care about Ivanka? Do you care about Barron? Do you care about
Or do you
Donald?
care about California?
Care about Eric? No, fuck that. He doesn't care about California.
I know, that's what I was thinking.
But who wants to get hit with polonium next time they go out to the bar in New York? Next time any of your children, I'm looking at all 4 of them, are available to get hit.
Who is this? Who is this? You're hypothetically speaking
about?
He's saying that's Russia.
This is Russia saying to Trump, right, we're going to poison it. We'll take them out. Just like all the other fucking secret agents we've taken out. It's no big deal. We do this. One of your kids will die if you don't do what we say.
Well, that's exactly why he's a security risk. Because
it's
Russia
not about
can and would do that.
Well, he's way deep like that. He and his entire family are way quadruple compromised, if you will. There's
compromised.
Yeah, there's
so good.
There's no question about that in my mind. But I think I'm thinking this California thing would be an interesting leverage, like because it reminds me of the show 24, you know. But it's like President Jackson, like we need you as president to declare X, you know, that you're pulling troops out of Syria or whatever, and then follow it up by this within 24 hours, or we're going to do Y. To show you that we're serious, we're going to turn the power off in California for 5 days, you know what I mean, or in a region of California for 5 days, and you will see that regardless of how you act. Like, that's going to happen. The question is, what more is going to happen? Do you want the whole country to go dark on your watch? You know what I mean? Like, I'm just saying.
No, I like it.
It could be.
I like it.
And if it is, I think in history, they'll look at me and they'll go, that motherfucker, he had that shit figured out. And if not, they won't even remember I said it, so I can't lose.
So, if you had that power to turn off the power, if you had that, like, access, you had that kind of, like, you discovered, you were, like, farting around on the internet one night, late at night, the baby was up, and the baby's back asleep, and, like, and you just, like, found this page that's, like, on GeoCities,
Earth,
and, like,
watching the power go
off. And you're like, and you, like, found this button, and you're like, what does this do? And then, you just see, like, a whole map of Google Earth just, like, blank out, and you're like, oh shit, and, like, once you figured it out, like, I can do this, like, this, not, like, just randomly, like, I could specifically control regions, and I could just, like, this is crazy, right? Thinking nefariously, how would you use it? Like, what would you, because I know you would use it for good, but, like, how would that, could that be used in, like, to your point, it could be used in, like, a ransom kind of way. It could be used in kind of a, like, simulate the rapture kind of way, where, like, you turn off power at, like, airports when planes are coming in, or, like, you know, like, you just create chaos.
It's really bad for hospitals, for sure.
And, well, basically, you do it during, if you turn off power during weather, extreme weather patterns in certain areas, you know, like during hurricane season in Hurricane Alley kind of thing, you just kill all the power so no emergency vehicles can do anything. Like they're,
but safe to say, I mean, the bottom line is if you have that control and you have bad intentions, it's like you have a hostage, you know, so there's a lot you can do with it, you know, and I think it's a really similar principle, you know, like, and it's like, well, at a certain point, sometimes you say, well, the hostage is important, but we can't let this one person, you know, if you're watching 24, for example, this one person's life can't weigh out 100 other people or 1,000 others, so you have to make a poor decision and let the terrorist kill the hostage or something. You know what I mean? But I think it's the bottom line is it's you could stop water, power, internet, phone, television. You could interrupt or override those things. And that stuff honestly is like more powerful and more effective than what they call kinetic weapons anyway. You know what I mean?
Well, so here's an example of like a really specific one, right? I was listening to this podcast about how subways work in New York City, and how the reason a lot of the subways are run late and are rarely on schedule is because a lot of first of all, the speed of the trains themselves are not regulated by the conductor. The brakes are regulated by the conductor. The speed is regulated by an automated system as the train enters the station. And that system checks how fast the train is going, checks it against the speed limit that's allowed going into that particular station, and then slows the train down to that speed limit, allows it to go in at that speed. Those speedometers are so outdated and are bad and like poorly managed and whatever, and all of those speed limits are set really low. So these really high quality trains in some cases are forced to travel at incredibly slow speeds coming into stations because these speedometers are telling them to do so. Now, if I had a way to hack into just speedometers around train stations around New York and just change the regulated speed required to going into that station to say that every train station has a speed limit going into it of like 95 miles an hour. So suddenly all trains are just flying into train stations all over New York City at the same time. That's or that all of those speedometers are just off suddenly at the same time and can't do anything. There are more specific kind of ways that power interruptions can cause massive chaos, that are not just like the heat being out for a day.
Right. Oh yeah. I mean, with controls online, with so many of the controls, being some form of online, that's a whole, another traffic signals, etc. But I think we're running into the Flawedcast Nation.
We got time.
My
apologies for being absent for the moment. I had to make urination station visitation.
At least you were honest about it.
Oh, well, thank you. And now we know. Now we know.
I want you to know the kitty's going to be better. She's going to heal up.
I hope the kitty will be back on another episode because it was nice to have a cat.
We're going to try to get her back to the woods before then.
Let's pump the brakes on that. Yeah, I think we've had plenty of the kitty.
Well, I'm down to make a cat cast as a separate whole thing, so just for what it's worth.
You will find me in agreement with that.
I'm down with the cat cast.
The pussy pod was taken.
The pussy pod, Jesus.
Oh, man. Well, that's a good way to... That's a strong close right there, man.
Strong segue to the finale.
Yeah. It was right there.
As Thank Rob you for goes coming. Dark. Right. Nice. I like that.
Yeah, it was an accident.
Did you do that?
It was an accident. The screensaver came on, but I think
we're living on fucking your computer's light.
No, it was Putin. He shut me down.
It was more sophisticated than we would ever.
He was Putin off the light.
Well, okay. Well, this has been a real pleasure. I hope we're able to upload it to the internet where it can be hacked and used against us.
Fingers crossed, y'all. Crossing thou finger wrists.
Dude.
All right. Peace.
Peace. Take care, guys.